The rising of the seas, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas. The temperature is rising, lads, degree by degree. Woe betide us, come the rising sea.
Here I am with James Kahn at long last. I have been trying to get James to do this program, and he couldn't do it until February. And as things would turn out, neither could I because I was in the hospital for the longest time. But I'm back, and I'm here with James Kahn, who is such a multi-talented guy. I don't even know where to begin. So let's begin at the beginning. Let's begin with your influences. You say you started writing when you were 9 years old.
That's right. And first of all, thanks for having me here. It's
Oh,
really
you're
a pleasure
welcome.
to talk to you. Yeah, I used to read comic books all the time when I was that age, and but then after I read them, I would think of different twists in the stories of the comic books that they didn't have that I wanted to see. So I would rewrite in my little notebook the whole story of the comic book, but adding my particular twists on it. So that was the beginning that I can think of writing, and then I wrote poetry and short stories all through high school. Until finally one of my short stories got bought when I was a senior in college. Um, and that was an odd happenstance. It was a short story contest in college, and I didn't win. I came in second, but one of the judges said knew someone at Playboy magazine and said this would be a great story for Playboy. So
Wow.
unbeknownst to me, he sent it into Playboy, and the first I knew about it was I got a $3,000 check in the mail
Get
saying,
away.
"Yeah." That was the beginning of my professional writing career.
You must be blessed with something for these
Yeah,
things to happen to you at such a young age.
yeah, yeah.
It had to make you feel kind of special. It would make me feel.
Oh, it was fabulous. Although I have to say, as you know, this is also part of being a freelance writer. Is then I thought, great, I'm a writer now. I can make a living as a writer, and I sent in short stories to probably 20 magazines that all got rejected.
Isn't that the way, though, for
Yeah,
so many people? You hear so many great writers or songwriters say that, oh, it was rejected, it was rejected.
yeah, yeah.
Who said it was a song was rejected 300 times? I think it might have been Julie Gold from a distance,
Hmm.
and nobody wanted that song
Yeah, yeah.
until it was picked.
Star Wars was rejected dozens of times, scores of times in Hollywood, but he just kept pushing and pursuing it.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So, but before we even get to Star Wars, there's so much more. Um, Now, after all of this writing and acceptance, you decided to become a doctor.
Yeah, yeah. I'd always loved science and biology, and it was especially after getting all these writing rejections, it was clear I wasn't ever going to make a living being a writer at that point. And so it seemed like something I could do and I would enjoy doing. So I went into medical school.
And the fact
And
that your
then,
dad was a doctor was kind of gave you a
yeah, that
little
was
inroad.
definitely an influence. And he was a GP and his office was in the basement of our house. So it was just kind of natural thing to do. It's like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. It's something that you see happen every day. It didn't seem like that big a deal.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And you didn't become a GP, you decided to be an ER doctor for a special reason. And that is,
Yeah, well, when I did my internship in internal medicine, which is just like primary care. But it became clear if I did that for the rest of my life, it would almost be like being an intern for the rest of my life. I'd be on call all the time. I'd get calls in the middle of the night. I'd have to be following all these patients. It would consume my life. And there were other things in my life that I wanted to do, like writing and music. So at the same time, emergency medicine was just becoming a specialty. It wasn't even an official specialty yet. And there were only 3 programs in the country that did it. But I was really drawn to it because it felt like being a sorcerer to me. It felt like I'd be in the position of pulling people back from death and wrestling with these great sort of threats and existential ideas about the human condition. So that really drew me to emergency medicine, and I got into the program at USC and went there.
The story is absolutely, it only gets better from here, folks. Why don't you give us a song before we move on to the next part of this story,
Oh,
which
okay.
will blow people's minds?
Okay. Well, this
No,
song
this
is
is from the album, The Rising of the Sea.
right. This is my shanty album. And this came about because actually initially at the suggestion of my producer David West, who said you should write a song about saving the whales instead of harpooning them. So I thought that was a good idea, and he's a big whale guy. So I wrote that shanty and do it in the style of a sea shanty. I had written a sea shanty for my previous album, just a single shanty, and it came out really nicely. And shanties were all about, there were sailors' working songs about confronting all the different things they had to deal with on the sea. So once I did the whale song, then we started thinking about climate change and rising seas and species die-offs and all the different aspects related to the sea that were caused by climate change. So I decided to do a whole album of sea shanties related to climate change and all its ramifications. So this is the title song, which did a music video of, which has got some awards at film festivals, and it's been doing pretty nicely.
If I might interject, the music video of this song is definitely something to be seen because it has all the harmonies in it, and it's just beautiful, beautiful video. So folks, check out James's YouTube channel.
I also have to say, shanties are meant to be sung in 3 or 4 part harmonies, so it's a little strange to me singing just solo.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm hearing all these other voices in my head, but we'll see how it goes. The rising of the sea, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas. The temperature is rising, lads, degree by degree. Woe betide us, come the rising seas. Come terrible migrations and a world of refugees, all adrift on the rising seas. The rising of the seas, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas. The icebergs all are calving, bear cubs drifting on the floes, well away on the rising seas. And the landfalls are a shrinking down to where nobody knows, sinking low on the rising seas. The rising of the seas, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas. Come hurricanes and river floods and ice storms, know it well, by the rising of the sea. And the furnace burning fuel sounds like the tolling of the bell of the rising seas. And the droughts of withered flowers that are twisted in the breeze, in the winds of the rising seas. In the wildfires we are losing all the forests for the trees, to the winds of the rising seas. And the birds without direction on the sere and arid plain, water gone to the rising seas. nor any drop to drink in the pools of dirty acid rain washing down to the rising seas. The rising of the seas, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas. And the ghosts of all our memories may spill over the ocean floor, nethermost to the rising seas. With the shipwrecks of our grand designs and all that came before, drowned away in the rising seas. The rising of the seas, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas. Yet may we mark this vision well, and evermore take heed from the call of the rising seas, and turn around our foundering ship by every word and deed in the name of the rising seas. The rising of the seas, by the rising of the seas, the day may yet be lost, and the empty world tossed on the rising seas.
Oh boy. I love that song so much. I tell
Oh,
you,
thank you.
that's why I urge everyone, as James said, the sea shanties are made to be sung in four-part harmony. And if you go to James's YouTube channel, you'll see the other guys singing this song with him. And what is that? Is there a special way, or just go to YouTube and look up James
It's
Conrad and
go to YouTube, and my channel is the name of my channel is James Kahn Entertainments,
Okay.
plural, all one word. It's sometimes when you click on that, it gets mixed up with James Kahn the actor, CAAN. So you got to hunt around a little bit. It's got my picture on it.
And
I'll send the link though.
and that's another reason that your website is thatjamescon.com.
Right, to distinguish me from the other James Kahn.
Yeah. And it's hard to distinguish if you just Google it because you have to know where you're going. And the website is great. There's lots of great things there. But so that song, by the way, there's going to be a little clip of the audio of it at the beginning of this interview when it publishes.
Oh, nice.
But I do urge people to go look at this. So you became a doctor, and you decided that the ER was the place to be because it had perks that no other doctor had. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was not only dramatic and life and death involving, but in the ER, you could schedule yourself on whenever you wanted to, and then schedule yourself off whenever you wanted to. So it was a perfect kind of medicine for someone like me who had other interests like writing. So I could work like 3 16-hour shifts one week and then take a week or 10 days off completely. And it was just ideal. So it allowed me to pursue, writing my novels at that point, and eventually scripts, TV scripts, and screenplays.
So one day you get a call from a music studio. Tell me about this.
You talking about the call for ET?
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a music studio. It was the from Kathleen Kennedy, who I didn't know her name then, who was the producer of ET, and she called the ER where I was working and asked if anybody down there could help her figure out how to resuscitate an alien. So we said, absolutely, come on down, we'll show you. So she and Melissa Matheson, who wrote ET, came down to our ER, and we gave them a demonstration of what we would do. And I played ET, and some of my friends pounded on my chest and resuscitated me and called out orders, and they liked our performance, so they brought us all down to the studio where ET was being shot. So I got to they dressed us all up in hazmat suits, and we were all the extras in that scene, and ET's resuscitation scene. I was I was the doctor holding a clipboard taking notes on the resuscitation, and I got to pound on his chest, although I don't think that moment was actually in the film. If you blink, you'll miss my entrance.
We'll have to watch that again. But so that kind of launched, or should I say, relaunched your career in writing.
Well, it launched my career in Hollywood. Really, I'd written science fiction novels before that and short stories. But I got up all my nerve while I was on the sets, and I approached Spielberg with a copy of my science fiction novel, World Enough in Time. And I said, I'm sure people do this all to you all the time, but would you consider reading my sci-fi novel and making a movie out of it? It's a lot of gall. And he was very gracious, though. He said, of course, I'll take it home, and as soon as I get some time, I'll take a look at it. And I felt like I knew what that meant. It meant it would sit on his shelf, and But the next day, PA ran up to me and said, "Mr. Spielberg wants to see you right away."
Whoa.
So he said, "Well, I read the beginning of your novel and I really liked it." And I said, "So you want to make a movie out of it?" He said, "Well, no." But we're behind the eight ball on the novelization for Poltergeist. So if you can write the novelization in a month, you got the job.
Holy crap.
So I called, I was scheduled to work in the ER that whole month. So I called all my friends that I could, and they covered all my shifts in the ER. And I sat in his office at MGM for the next month from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, writing that novel, Poltergeist.
That is so amazing.
Yeah.
That was your first
That was
of
my first novelization, yeah.
of
And then
the
and then a year later, when George Lucas was working on Return of the Jedi, he called Spielberg, who's a good buddy, and said, "Can you give me any recommendations for someone to write the novel?" And Spielberg, gave him my name, and so they flew me up to Skywalker Ranch, and we had a talk, and he hired me.
and from that also came the Goonies.
Right, right.
What else?
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Okay. And yeah, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. My God. I mean, these are movies that, I never read the novelization of it, but now I definitely do. And I'll tell you, in looking at your website, you have so many other books there that now I want to read, because one of my biggest, while I was in the hospital, well, I didn't feel like reading, but when I got well enough to read, I was dying to have a good novel to read, and a paperback novel.
Yeah, yeah.
I read Mary Gaucher's autobiography, which is great, but I wanted something like like one of these, Indiana Jones,
Right, right.
or
No, I don't consider any of the things that I write literature, but I tell a good yarn.
doesn't matter as long as you enjoy it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so, and by the way, Return of the Jedi was the was the New York Times best-selling book of 1983, and the best paperback and hardcover of 1983. So, don't put it down. It's
Yeah, no. A lot of people read that book. And
yeah.
when I've occasionally go to Comic Cons, I went to the Star Wars convention in Anaheim a few years ago when they rebooted the franchise to sign books. People lined up to sign their old copy of Return of the Jedi, and so many people told me either they learned how to read on my book, or it was so important to them and they kept it under their pillow and they read it a dozen times. It was really moving to me.
I want to do that. So then you kept branching out. You got involved in television.
Yeah, yeah.
and you sent scripts to television shows. And the first sale you got was St. Elsewhere, one of my favorite shows way back
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Well,
What a great show.
I had written a feature film screenplay, semi-autobiographical based on my year at LA County Emergency Room. So I tried to sell that as a feature and nobody wanted to buy it, but it got me a lot of meetings with agents and producers and shows. And because people liked it, the writing and the subject matter. So on that basis, I got my first couple jobs. Actually, I had a job before St. Elsewhere as the head writer on a short-lived show called Family Medical Center. And we did, it was a half-hour show. It was syndicated 5 days a week. And I wrote or co-wrote 167 shows that year. So I really learned my chops in television writing on that show.
I think I told you this before when we spoke, that one of my a scene I can never get out of my head from St. Elsewhere. And by the way, Howie Mandel, who people know from
Sure.
America's Got Talent, was a young Harry
Oh
Mandel,
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
on St. Elsewhere.
Was his
And
start, yeah.
one of the
And Denzel
scenes,
Washington too.
yeah,
And
that's right, Denzel
started there.
Washington.
They both started there.
One of these scenes I vividly remember was a young lady having to have having to donate her heart, and I guess it was one of the characters' wife.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forget the guy which character it was, but the show ended with him listening
Yeah, I remember that very
to
well.
her heart. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Gives me chills when I think about it. But what an
yeah, yeah,
incredible show that was.
yep.
And you wrote for, you were the co-executive producer of Melrose Place.
Right, right.
And what
What that
else?
means is, in feature films, it's a director's medium, really, but television is completely a writer's, ruled by writers, and the way the hierarchy goes is you start out as just a staff writer, what's called a story editor, and you get to write one script a year, a season. And then if they like you and they keep you, then you become an executive story editor and you get two scripts. And then the third year you get to be co-producer, which means you start actually producing the scripts that you write. And then you become a producer, which is you produce not only the scripts you write, but the scripts of the younger writers, until finally you work your way up to being the executive producer, where you're sort of in charge of the whole show.
Oh boy. So why don't you give us another song and then we'll talk a little bit more about
Okay.
where you are right now.
Okay. This one is from a previous album called The Meaning of Life. And it's, as I get older, I start pondering these issues a little bit more. And I passed one of those birthdays with a zero at the end of it a few years ago. And so this sort of came to me. So it's about thinking about where you've been and where you're going. It's called, and it started out with just the line came to me one morning after my birthday. Well, there goes one more year in the rearview mirror, and that sounded like a good song line to me. So I wrote this song. There's one more year in the rearview mirror. Damn if I know what I'm doing here. Well, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I just don't know what it is. No, I just don't know what it is, my dear. I regret some things I did, it's true. Regret some things I didn't do too. Guess it's damned if you don't and damned if you do. But one thing I do not regret is the day I'll never forget, first being with you. All those days under all those skies, gone all their ways, told their truths, lied their lies, that's alright. I said my goodbyes. Hear my tires humming on a lonely road. Run out of gas, maybe get towed. Leave it all behind, lighten my load. Just remember when you get older and you're walking along on the shoulder, how the fireflies glow. Well, it's ash to ash and dust to dust. I come a surprise, I'll go if I must. Was good for a time, now it's time to go bust. I can feel my hubcaps starting. Yeah, the rims and lugs are starting to rust. Old man walks kind of sweet and slow. He doesn't have many more years to grow. Sees his life like an ebb and flow to and fro. But the summer days were sublime, and he figures he'll know when it's time to go.
James Kahn right here on Catskills Air. And boy, I tell you, I have been looking forward to speaking with James for the longest time. Such an incredibly talented artist in all ways, shapes, and forms. And I see
Thank you, Artie.
from your website that some of your old science fiction books have been reissued. And
Yeah.
those I am going to be ordering, and I'm serious because this is what I want to get into. I love that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do that. And also, if you go to James's website, thatjamescahn.com, you can purchase the albums. You also have a kids album in that group there. In addition to the latest album, The Rising of the Sea. You want to quickly talk about the kids album?
Yeah. I started really writing music when my kids were born. I started writing lullabies to them, and I would write birthday songs. And those were the first songs I wrote. So, they're in their 30s, close to 40 now. That's how long ago that was.
Wow.
And then I just at some point I wanted to build on that and write more songs, more kid songs, and so I just put out a kids album and did very well. I won the best children's album of the year for Creative Child magazine. So that was exciting. And actually, the book and CD I want to mention most is Matamoros.
Oh yeah, Metamoros, right?
Which is the CD I did just before this one, and the CD was based on the novel that I released at the same time. And the CD, each song on the CD is about one of the characters in the novel. The novel is a historical adventure romance, kind of a swashbuckling thing about a piece of American history nobody knows about, which is during the Civil War in Matamoros, Mexico, was called the back door of the Confederacy, because they couldn't ship their cotton out of American ports anymore. They were blockaded by the North. So they shipped all their cotton to Brownsville, Texas, and then ferried it across the river to Matamoros, Mexico, and then shipped it out to England and the rest of the world from there. And then also shipped in munitions and supplies to fight the Civil War the same way. They would come into Matamoros, get ferried across the river to Brownsville, and then go into the Confederate States. So Matamoros was full of not only gun runners and cotton smugglers, but Yankee and rebel spies and Texas Rangers and runaway slaves. And then in addition, the same year, Napoleon had invaded Mexico. So it was also full of French foreign legionnaires and Austrian cavalry. It was like Casablanca, but it really happened.
Wow, that is amazing.
So I wrote that book, which I was very pleased with.
And the book is also available on your website, right?
Yeah, or Amazon, any of the usual places, yeah.
Okay. Well, James, goodness gracious. Like I said, I don't think I've ever spoken to an artist as diversified as you. And the album, all of the albums, but in particular this new album, if you love sea shanties, don't pass this one by, folks. It's such a great album. Like I say, I'm going to play a little clip at the end of this interview also, just a small clip. But if you want to hear the album, That James Kahn is thatjamescahn.com is the website to go to. He's not easy to Google because of the other James Kahn.
That's right.
But James, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I'm beside myself with happiness here. You've made my day.
I'm so glad. Thanks for having me, Artie.
And have a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, and have a great, happy Valentine's Day too.
Oh yeah, right. That's coming up. We'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care.
My name, it is nothing. I'm from Runaway Bay. Oh, the ocean rolls. But the girl that I love lived in old Camagüey, and she wanted the ocean to take her away. So we stole us a boat near Havana town. Oh, the ocean rolls. Then we made out to sea in the chilly sundown.